Hello and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you a thrift trash to treasure, that's hard to say, using items that I found at the Goodwill outlet bins. If you like this kind of content, I would love it if you'd subscribe to my channel where I upload thrifting, decor, and DIY videos and vlogs lately. And of course, you can always find me on Instagram at Nicole Northgarden. Here we go. I hope you are doing well. The footage that I'm going to show you is actually pre-recorded from a mom's weekend that I went to back in February. And I got really sick right around the time that I recorded this, so I never got the video up. And then I don't even know what happened, but regardless, I'm showing it to you now. I love these little block assemblages that I made. I did something similar for Christmas time. My intention was to sell these in my Etsy shop, and then the situation happened and I'm not selling things in my Etsy shop right now. So maybe when this is all over, I'll list them anyway and they'll be out of season, but that's okay. So I hope you like what I came up with using vintage blocks and then bits and bobs, I like to call them, that I collect throughout the year from garage sales and from thrift stores and from the Goodwill outlet bins. Let's get into the video.
The first thing I did was to sort through all my vintage and not so vintage blocks that I have found at the Goodwill outlet bins to spell out some spring and Easter related words. Then, using my Titebond glue, I glued the blocks for each word together. I used the Titebond glue because it bonds really well with wood. As I went along in the project, I realized there were some blocks that I wanted to paint, and it's definitely easier to paint them and antique them before you glue them. So you'll notice as you go along in the footage that not all the blocks are glued. That's probably a better idea if there's anything you want to paint. So paint first, then glue. Some of the colors in the blocks were fine for spring, but some were a little too primary, so I used some craft paints to change the colors of some of the letters on some of the blocks. After I had changed the colors on those blocks, I didn't want them to look too fresh and new, so I used some sandpaper to rough up the blocks, and then I came in with some of my antique glaze as well to add an additional bit of patina to the blocks. To add the antique glaze, I basically used a dry brush technique. So I would just take a little tiny bit of glaze and then wipe most of it off on a piece of paper and then dry brush it onto the surface of the block. And then you can also just rub it off if you've added too much, just to make it look the way you want it to. Once the blocks were antiqued, I started to figure out which little figures and accessories I wanted to use on top of each assemblage. For this first one, which says Risen, I decided to use this angel. This is actually a Christmas ornament that I picked up at a thrift store a while back, and she did have a bit of red on her, so I just used some acrylic paint to paint over that. And so you're basically kind of using what you have to make it look the way you want it to. I attached all the figures and the bits and bobs to the blocks using more Titebond glue. Again, I like this glue because you get a good seal. It doesn't smell like E6000, but it definitely works better than hot glue in a lot of situations. I gave each little assemblage a layer of floral moss that I got from the Dollar Tree. It just gave it a little bit more of a finished and uniform look on top, and then I would put some flowers or eggs or whatever the figures were on top of that floral moss. And if the moss went wonky in any area, I would just use my scissor to trim it up just to make it look a little bit neater. And here's what the first one that I created looked like. And you can see in the next shot, I actually did complete these on the back as well. So if anything was red or an unpleasant color on the back, I used paint to make the backs of them look nice as well. And then just to complete the projects, I gave a clear coat of Rust-Oleum matte finish to all of the blocks just to finish them up, especially the ones that I had painted, because I wanted these projects to look nice from the fronts and the backs, and for the paint to last properly. And here's a look at all of my final products. I love this grow one. I think it's adorable. I made 2 that say Risen for Easter. My intention with these was to sell them in my Etsy shop. And then, the whole situation happened and I just haven't gotten around to it. I may still try to list them now that I know that I can ship things from home. That little guy is staying with me. You've probably seen him in some of my house tours. He's one of my favorites. But I love how these projects make use of little bits and bobs that you can find at the craft store or at the Goodwill outlet bins. I hope this gives you an idea of something you can do with little things you might have laying around your house. And that's all that I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed seeing how I made these little vintage block crafts. Until my next video, thanks for watching.